Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about the binary principle. Alright, so the binary principle is embodied in the two phrase periods which antecedent consequent phrases are typically interdependent, right? They rely on each other. Okay. So therefore two main parts with the second part as an outgrowth of the first. And the parts are commonly labeled as A and B. Right. This is one example of a piece written in binary form. I'm just going to sing it out loud for you, right? And then we will pay attention to the change in terms of the structural phenomena. Right? Beginning. Da 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 So clearly there's a division right here with the repeat sign, and this is very expository, very stable. We start from D and we end with another D, right? This is a little contrasting. If you look at the range, right, it jumps to A and C. It's pretty up high, because on the first four measures the range is from D to A. Oh, we go down to C too. So in between C and A, this is the range. But on the second section, we start pretty up high, A right here, and it goes up to C. Right, so the range is pretty high, D to C on the second system. And then the last system, it slowly goes back to D, and we end in D, right? So this is A, and this is B. Measure 1 to 4, 5 to the ending, which is measure 10. Right? In this case, there's only one melody. It's kind of hard to tell if it is a authentic cadence or half cadence, right? But we can call it a melodic cadence. We know that there's a sense of cessation of activity, right? Right. Observation. There's a bar line. That's where the division is. Right, a melodic cadence on measure 4, which is on a D, and rhythmic change at measure 5, which is right here, and also range as well. Lack of periodic phrase structure. Okay, yes. What is with a single melody is kind of hard to tell too, and is mainly expository. All of the notes belong to D Dorian. Right, this is a model piece of music. Right, a second example is an atonal piece of music. We'll listen to it, and let's find out where the division is. right? Since this is atonal, right? The entire piece is developmental in function, right? Naturally, and it's divided into two sections. I'm pretty sure you picked up on that, right? Which is right here. While there's a rest, right? And this is kind of like a restarting of the music. And also, if we look at this motif, the triplet, and then with the tie, right, reminds us of the motif at the very beginning. And if you look at the left hand part, is a descending line, which is happening in the very beginning of the piece too. Well, and also dynamically, this is marked pianissimo, right? So if a phrase is getting softer, we perceive it as the ending of something, right? Of a musical idea. Right, so these are two examples from their respective eras. The first was written in modality, the second one in atonality. Right, so we can't really define the structures in terms of the tonality. Right. And also they are not representative of the mainstream of musical activity in its respective centuries too. However, in the 17th and early 18th century, right, the increasing standardization of tonal movement and motivic treatment led to a standard binary principle that we are familiar with now, which has a lot to do with tonality. Right, it's actually built around the sense of tonality and the resolution of tonality, and eventually evolved to the sonata allegro structure, which we will talk about in several videos from now on. Okay. Well, let's talk about the elements of the binary principle. Okay, the binary principle is expressed above all else in terms of tonal movement, which means tonally some sort of dissonance will be created, and that will be resolved later in the piece. Right, you start from, we talked about that in the previous video, right? A piece of tonal music normally starts in an expository function and then goes to something else. It can be a transitional or developmental, and eventually it's going to come back to expo. Right, normally with the 5 of the home key, and then the home key. And start with the home key, going to somewhere else. It's like a formula, a tonal formula in the binary principle. Right. In part A, in tonic, and normally is concluded in an authentic cadence, in a related key, or a half cadence, right? Or any cadences in the home key, right? In tonic. Part A, part B. Let's say if you're in the key of C major, you will see half cadence in C major, authentic cadence in C major, right? Because it's establishing the home key. It's important. In part B, this is pretty okay. This is the division line, and the beginning of B usually is pretty unstable, and then eventually it goes back to the home key, which is C major. Right. And also in part A, we start in the home key, but we'll gradually go to something else. In the major key, normally it goes to 5, right, which is G major in this case. And from here on, maybe it will involve some tonal shifts with some tonicizations or modulations before it goes back to the home key. Right, stable, gradually unstable, and then from unstable to stable. Which means part A relies on part B, and part B also relies on part A. So they can't be separated tonally. They can't stand alone tonally. Right? It will be incomplete if we just play this movement, this section, right? And then it ends in 5 of C. It's not resolved. That's not a complete tonal music. On the other hand, if a piece of music starts with instability and then gradually resolve to a key that we have never heard before, right? Because with the absence of A part, right, we can't really establish this key because we have never heard this key before. We are not familiar with this key orally, right? It wouldn't make sense. So these two parts must work together. Okay, this is the very common tonal scheme of the binary principle. Okay, start from the home key and goes to 5. This 5 doesn't mean the 5 of the home key. It means the key from the home key. For example, if this is E major, the 5 right here is B major. Right, from B major back to E major. And in minor keys, if we start from C minor, it should modulate to E flat major, and then from that point back to C minor, or to G minor, the minor 5. Okay, G major, and then back to the home key C minor. Right, it's basically moving away and then returning to the home key. Right, let's talk about simple binary form. There are actually 2 types of binary form. This is the first type, and the second type is the rounded binary. So this form, the simple binary form, dominated the instrumental dance suites of the Baroque era. It's actually the unfolding of a single musical idea into 2 main parts. 2 main parts is usually separated by a double bar with repeat signs. So each part is either single, indivisible section or a phrase group. Right, so for example, part A in a simple binary form can consist of just one single continuous phrase, right? Not necessarily periodic. Because for example, for Bach's music, it's very hard to tell what key we are in or what type of cadence that happens in the middle of a phrase. It's hard to tell because the music is continuous, it's highly continuous, and you can't tell the cadence until the end of the phrase, a clear cadence. In periodic structure, it's rare. I just talked about that. And the cadence structure should match the diagram. For example, part A, we should see a half cadence right here at the division line. Right before the division, there should be a cadence. This is what it means by matching up the diagram. And part A is usually expository and followed by transitional and developmental in function. Part B is usually longer. It's more tonally unstable than part A. Unstable. And then goes back to the home key. And also after the double bar line. The double bar line usually happens right there. And here is developmental. followed by a closing section of expository and terminative function in the tonic. Right, this should be expository and terminative. All right, this is a dance suite, a Baroque dance suite, to be specific. In which, just by looking at the score, right, we know that there's a double bar with repeat sign. So this is the division. And this is part A, this is part B, all of this. And part B is apparently longer than part A. Right. Okay, let's see if these statements are true. We'll just listen to the excerpt first. Okay, it starts in C major. Well, I'll just put a square on the C major. Right, in part A, okay, there's a clear cadence right here. In G major, there's a perfect authentic cadence. What about in part A? In the rest of the of part A, can you pick up a clear cadence? Okay, maybe right here there's a very weak cadence, maybe. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Is one continuous section of phrase. And also, the first system is pretty expository in function, and then slowly F sharp is introduced. Okay, because F sharp is the leading tone of G major. Right, so expository. Here is transitional. Okay, that's what happens in part A. If you could look at part B, G major, of course. This is kind of in F major. And then this is A minor. Okay, still A minor. Kind of in F. Alright, and then finally we're back to C major. We can't really tell until we reach this point, right, which is a perfect authentic cadence in C major. So in this part is pretty transitional and developmental in function. It's highly unstable. If you look at the tonicizations, G major, the starting point in F major, A minor. Do we have a clear cadence? Okay, maybe we have cadence right here. It can be an imperfect authentic cadence in A minor. Okay, we don't really have a cadence in G major. We don't really have a cadence in F major. A minor, yes. So A minor is more stable. F major. We don't really have a cadence in F major, but we do have cadence in C major. So you can see in the middle section, where the beginning of the B section is pretty developmental. It looks like it can go to any of the related keys, but the closely related keys to C major. Right? Not until we hear a perfect authentic cadence in C major that we know that this is a resolution tonally. Right? So at this point onward is expository, or terminative is probably more appropriate because this is towards the end. This is actually the closing section because it's in C major. So the diagram would look like this. Start from C major and transition to G, and we do have a perfect authentic cadence in G major. And then starting from here is pretty unstable. We have G major is tonicized, F major, A minor, F major. Not until at this point that we know for sure we are in the home key. And here we have this is 14 measure long, and the N is probably like 16 or 18. So part B is longer than part A. Okay, because it takes more time to develop and to return to the home key. And also, the material that first appeared in a tonic is never restated in that key. So right here, we never hear that again, right, in part B. It never comes back again. First, we talked about that phrase and period terminology. There's some cadences, motive. Okay, part B is a little longer than part A, okay, which is typical of a Baroque dance suite. Okay, what about this? This is J.S. Bach. Okay, so we will listen to this excerpt and see if it follows the binary principle we talked about. Okay, start from B minor. Okay, let's see if there's a cadence. Looks like there's a cadence here. Bum bum 5, so it's a half cadence. Then keeps moving towards the end. Right here we have a perfect authentic cadence in D major. So part A looks like this. B minor, and then we do have a half cadence, and then later on D major, perfect authentic cadence, and we have a double bar line, a repeat sign. Right, the beginning of part B. Okay, it continues in D major. Good. Right here we have a perfect authentic cadence in F sharp minor. Okay, D major, F sharp minor. Here's kind of like E minor. E is tonicized. Back to F sharp. Here is like we're in B minor again. So la ti do. Okay, here's very expository, or rather terminative. Alright, E, F sharp, and then B, and we do have a perfect authentic cadence towards the end. So it follows the binary principle, right? Because the beginning is very expository. We know that we're in B minor, and we do have a half cadence in B minor. Great. And then as it progresses, part A ends in perfect authentic cadence in a new key, which is a relative major of B minor, right? Which means this part is transitional. In part B, this is very developmental and transitional. Developmental and transitional. Not until here that we know for sure we are back in B minor. Expository, right here, transitional, developmental. I'll just put terminative. Unstable, stable. Right, I think it follows the binary principle very well. In fact, simple binary form. This is in, to be specific, because the theme right here, it never comes back. Right? If it comes back, it's something else, but it doesn't come back. So this is a simple binary form. Right? Binary form in is simplest. Restatement of the original melodic or thematic material, no. Right? The answer is no, right? And change of texture after the double bar line. Right? Reinforce structural divisions, right? In several different tonicizations. Change in structural function, yes. Developmental, transitional. Change of unit of organization. Maybe it's smaller, it's more sequential, right? Like dun dun dun. Like dun dun dun, bum 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 bum. This is sequential. This is sequential. Right? It makes the unit organization smaller. Okay, part B is 4 measures longer than part A. This is very typical of a Baroque dance suite. Okay, let's talk about the binary principle in simple binary form, which we talked about, but I just want to reinforce. Right? First of all, tonality. Right? This is the most important in the structure of the binary principle. However, parts A and B, the organization of the structural units varies from movement to movement, right? While it follows the basic binary principle, right? The organization of the structural units may be different, right? Maybe part A is periodic, maybe it's just a phrase group, right? You never know. Some movements exhibit defined phrase structures, some don't. Okay. If you look at that, part A could be a phrase group, could be a single section without any cadences besides the end of the section, or it could be periodic. It starts from expository and then to transitional or developmental, right? And the beginning of part B is a continuation of the tonality at the end of part A. Could be a phrase group, could be a single section, right? This is normally commonly developmental in function, and then towards the end is terminative, right? It's very stable in the home key, right? We are at the home and we take a walk, and then after that we take a walk back home. That's it. Alright, let's examine the Sarabande by Bach. We will listen to the excerpt and see what we find out tonally and cadences and the phrase structure. Alright, let's see if this Sarabande follows the simple binary form principle. Okay, D minor. Alright, this is the end of part A. The end of part A. So are you able to notice any cadences other than this one? There's a half cadence. In D minor, not really, right? Everything is so rigid. If you look at the bass line, the voice leading is just so smooth. Right? It's hardly any fourth or fifth movement. I mean, like, for example, like 1 to 5 or 5 to 1, the fifth, the skip of fifth or fourth on a different direction. Not really. So this is a single phrase, single continuous phrase that lasts for 8 measures. So part A is D minor. Towards the end, it's just a half cadence. And then we have part B and the beginning of part B. Alright, this is very interesting. If you look at the bass line right here, maybe up to this point, right, is the right hand melody in part A. Okay, this is something very interesting. So Bach is using the thematic materials from part A in the beginning of part B. But right here is it's hard to label a key because there's just so many fully diminished 7 chord like this one. Makes the music very unstable. It could go any direction tonally. So I'll just do this swinging line, means it's tonally unstable. Not until here with fourth motion, D to G, right? 5-1 in G minor. So this is in fact a perfect authentic cadence, which is a big deal in tonal music. And then we go to F major is being hinted at. And then back to D minor, right? It is going back to D minor slowly. And then we have a perfect authentic cadence towards the end. So does this follow the principle of the simple binary form? Let's see. This is pretty expository. Right here is a little transitional on a very small level. The reason why is that this is a half cadence in D minor. Right, we are still within D minor, but it's just a half cadence of D minor. It's not like we're in F major. No, so a little transitional. Right here is developmental. It's hard to tell, hard to label the tonizations or any tonal centers. Not until right here, major 15 and 16, where we have a perfect authentic cadence in G minor. Okay, later on we are slowly approaching D minor. Then this is how the piece ends in D minor tonally, from D to D. It is developmental. Then back to, I'll just put terminative. So it does follow the binary principle, and which the thematic material doesn't come back right here. Okay, the fact that the theme comes back on the left hand, the very beginning of part B, is a little unusual. Right? Normally it doesn't do that. Normally it will use fragments of the theme. Right here, maybe it will just use the ba-da-da-dan, right? This gesture going down and up, or this gesture, sequentially, right? Not the entire melody. So this is a little unusual, but it still follows the binary principle. Right, here's more. Okay, also part B is a single phrase. Measure 9 to 16. Well, it's concluded by a perfect authentic cadence in G minor, as we talked about. And towards the end, it's also a single phrase that is concluded by a perfect authentic cadence in D minor. Alright, next, this is the aria from the Goldberg variation. We'll listen to it and decide what form is this and does it follow the binary principle. Okay, it starts in G major. Let's see the first cadence. Where is it? Okay, not until this point, right? G, G. Okay, perfect authentic cadence. Okay, and A, D. First scale degree. This perfect authentic cadence in the key of D major. Alright, this is the end of part A, the beginning of part B. And we're still in D. It's continuation from the end of part A. Okay, we are going to E minor. Do we have a cadence in E minor? Right here. B, E, and then first scale degree. So we do have a perfect authentic cadence in E minor. And we are slowly moving back to G major. Of course, we have a perfect authentic cadence in G major. This is 5, 1. Okay, the beginning is pretty expository. And right here with the introduction of C sharp, which is the leading tone in the key of D major. So we can say that it's a transitional. And right here, tonally is unstable. However, E minor is established because we have a perfect authentic cadence in E minor. But it's still pretty developmental. I'll just put it right here. Okay, we are moving back slowly. This is a little transitional because we are slowly modulating, and then to a G major perfect authentic cadence. Okay, look at that. It's expository in the last 2 or 3 measures. Before that, we still have F natural, right, which is not part of G major. So we kind of had a 5, 7 of 4, and then go to 4, and then to 5, which is very common in Bach's music towards the end of a movement or a music composition, right? He likes to use 5, 7 of 4 to strengthen the subdominant function, which later reinforces the 5 and then to 1. So the F natural actually reinforces the E, because F natural resolves to E. Resolve to E, right, which is the third note in the 4 chord. And then E resolve to D. D is the 5 in the key of G, and then to G. Okay, how does the diagram look like? Okay, starts G major, and perfect authentic cadence, and then expository, and then it modulates to D major, and we do have a perfect authentic cadence in D major. Transitional. The beginning of B is developmental. We start from D, but here it's pretty unstable until we establish E minor as the key, and then right here is a little transitional back to G major, which is the end. Right, so this follows the binary principle, and the theme doesn't come back at all, so this is a simple binary. Alright. Yep, this is how it looks like, as I explained before. 8, 8. So it's 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Pretty symmetrical. Okay, rounded binary form, right? Which has the same principle as the simple binary form, right? This is a very important exception, which is that the original melodic or thematic material returns in part B in the tonic key. Okay. Which this means rounded, right? The idea is rounded up towards the end of the movement or section. So it's pretty popular in the classical composers circle, and the organizations are pretty symmetrical, 4 plus 4, 8 plus 8, right? Periodic structure is pretty common in rounded binary form. Okay. Let's examine this excerpt. We'll listen to it and see if it follows the binary principle while the original theme returns in the tonic key. We'll just mark the apparent. Right, here is the division, right? Okay, I'll just mark this as with a lowercase a. This idea, bum bum, dun 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 dun. Okay, and a returns, bum bum, dun 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 dun. If you notice the end of this, of the piece of the music, and the end of the first phrase, right? This is D, D, and here is G, 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 meaning that in part A, we modulate to a different key. Well, this is A major. Or the 5 of D major. However, the end, with the return of the original theme, right, we are back to D major. Well, I just put it right here. This whole thing is in D major, right? Okay, and from the beginning, D major, I just put circle. Okay, this is imperfect authentic cadence. And then with the introduction of G sharp, which is the leading tone of A major. Yep, this is in A major. Why? Because we have 4, 5. Okay, this is 1/6/4, cadenza 6/4. Which means A major is established pretty firmly. So we're now in part A. Okay, D major. I just put circle. We have imperfect authentic cadence, and then part A ends with A major with a perfect authentic cadence, and then we have a repeat sign. This is part B. Okay, right here. Right, this is major 14. From major 9 to major 14. So what is going on? Oh, by the way, this is periodic. Right here is a continuation of A major. Okay, the reason why I don't circle this A is the A is not really established. It's not as strong as this A, but it's a continuation of the A major here. It's like a leftover. So this is pretty much 5 of D major, right? It's 5 pedal. And then finally D is established again, now with the return of the theme, right? Okay, now if I label this as A, as a motive or an idea, and it returns here. So the A right here, this A right here, ends in A major, which is not the home key, which is the 5. 1, go to 5. 5, back to 1. However, this A right here starts in the home key and ends in the home key. Right, so this is the very important difference between simple binary form and rounded binary form. Right, so the A idea is rounded out towards the end of part B. This is very important. Okay. And I actually feel comfortable labeling this as a lowercase b, lowercase a, and this part, which is the developmental part, as lowercase b and back to lowercase a. So it looks like that. Part A, there's an AA. Part B starts with B and then A returns. While in simple binary form, this is what we have, A and B. This doesn't come back. And this is in home key. Home key. This is also home key, but with the absence of the original theme. Okay, this is very important. Okay, they both follow the binary principle is the same, which means this B right here, right, is not a standalone section, okay? So the tonality in B, the instability in this part has to be resolved right here. So the smaller case B rely tonally on the end of part B, which is the resolution, or return to the home key. This is very important. This is how you can separate a binary form from a ternary form, okay, which we will talk about in the next chapter, okay. And do not confuse with the return of A as another new uppercase A section. Okay, that's why I label this as a lowercase a. If this is labeled as a uppercase A, which means the A is standalone, it's independent, it's not interdependent of part B, right? It's independent tonally by itself. So A is complete tonally by itself. In this case, the smaller case A is not. No, the lowercase a is not, okay? It relies on this and it relies on this. Okay, so this is rounded binary because the original theme returns in the home key. Did we talk about the functions? Okay, it's pretty clear, right? Here is expository and transitional. Here's developmental. And then back to this. I will just put terminative. TRI. Which is the binary principle. Alright, let's examine this section of the movement. And let's see if this is in rounded binary or simple binary. Okay, F minor. Alright, this is something I like to do when I listen to a piece of music. I would just spot the perfect authentic cadences. Alright, there's one right here. A flat major. Well, if you can spot other cadences too. In this case, this is a half cadence, right? In F minor. Okay, there's a perfect authentic cadence in F minor right here, and it's kind of reiterated, which means F minor is confirmed, right? Beethoven wants to confirm that F minor is the home key. And he thinks this is not enough, right? And then he added a coda. I will just call this a coda. A codata is the closing section of a section. All right, I used a lot of sections. So coda is the ending of a piece, right? Codata is the ending of a section, not of the entire piece. Because later on, you know, there's another section right here. So this is certainly not the coda of the entire piece, but it's codata for this section. I just call it codata. Here's another perfect authenticator in F minor. Look at how many times the perfect authentic cadence in F minor comes back. 1, 2, 3. Which means this is a big deal. We're in F minor. Is there any other perfect authentic cadences? Alright, now let's go from the beginning and pick up what we left behind. So this is F minor, right? And then it ends with a perfect authentic in A flat major. So this is a modulating period. I shouldn't say period, I would just say modulating phrase. The reason why is that I couldn't really find a cadence in F minor. You can 1, 2, 3, 4 if you count this as the cadence. But the rhythm doesn't really support it, right? It goes away very quickly. This is just a fleeting moment of authentic cadence in F minor. It flies away to A flat major. And also if you look at the phrasing, right, it's one single phrase. And we can only say that on the first 4 measures, the notes suggest that we are in F minor. Right? You can argue that there's an authentic cadence, but this is very weak. It's not very convincing. But we know that it starts from F minor, it goes to A flat major. Okay? Okay. Section A. This is what we know for now. So we are kind of like detective. We are collecting evidence. And right here, this is just very unstable. It's very sequential, right? This is a sign of a developmental section of a piece. So I'll just put expository, transitional, developmental. And this is the return of, right, the lowercase a. Or just lowercase a. B is the section with developmental function, and then A comes back again. And also right here we have a 5 of F, right, which means the B section is not independent. It relies on this A so that the home key can return. Okay, and then we do have 3 perfect authentic cadences. It actually happens twice, and then we do have a codata, another perfect authentic cadence. There we go. And this follows the binary principle, right? Expo, transitional, developmental, and then here is exposit. I will just say expository because we have a codata. Then I will label this as terminative. And then ABA, So the A returns in the home key. Great, so this is a rounded binary. Okay, let's see if there's any period right here. It's really hard to tell. There's no clear cadence in the middle of this phrase from here to here. Here maybe the codetta. This is imperfect authentic cadence, and this is perfect authentic cadence. You can argue that we have a period on the codetta. Okay, part B is pretty long, 4 times as long as part A. Right, and then we talked about that. Okay, the binary principle in rounded binary form. Okay, tonality, of course, right? And this is the most important, the return of the tonic key of the original melodic and thematic material. So the motivic principle is also involved because the motive comes back. This is kind of how it looks like. Pretty much the same as the binary principle, but right here, this is important. So before the A, the lowercase a comes back. This is A, B, right? This big A and this is big B. Before the return of the A, there's a preparation. Yeah, right? There's a 5 of the home key. Right? It's very true here. Right? Half cadence in F minor, because we are going back to F minor. This is what it happens. That's how it prepares the return of the A. The rest are pretty much the same. Can be periodic or can be a phrase group. Part A is commonly a modulating period. So I just want to add that there are times when we analyze to a piece of music. This is what happens. 1, and it doesn't modulate. It comes back to 1 again, and the rest is the same. In this case, we call it a sectional rounded binary form or simple binary form. It could happen to both simple and rounded binary form. If this is in any other key other than the 1 chord, we call it a continuous. These are all a continuous rounded binary. Okay. Continuous meaning that the 5 or the 3 or the minor 5 in minor keys, which means they continue to go tonally, right? They continue to progress because they haven't been resolved. That's why it's continuous. Sectional meaning that if this goes to 1, right? This is very conclusive. Right? It's sectional. It's within a section. So tonally speaking, it doesn't have to rely on part B. There's a little discrepancies there, just a little, but it's still in the binary principle. So all of the music we have talked about in this video, they are all continuous, simple, or rounded binary form. Okay, because of this right here. And if you look at number 1, part A is commonly a modulating period. Commonly, right? Sometimes it doesn't modulate. It goes right back to the home key, the 1. Okay, I just want you to know that it does happen. Right? Don't be surprised when you come across a piece like that. Right? Part B is basically the same, but with the return of A. Alright, let's listen to this excerpt and see what is it in simple or rounded binary form. Okay, perfect authentic cadences. There's a bunch of them. And this is back to D. Back to A. Okay, here's interesting, but if you look at the end of, this is the beginning of the B section. Look at what is going on. Right, we have a 5, 6, 5 of D. Right, this preparation for the return of A, this is exactly what is happening right here. And then D major again, perfect authentic cadence. And this time, it does not go to A major, right? It stays in D major. With an extension or interpolation, where it's longer than usual. This phrase, I mean, there are a lot of perfect authentic cadences right here. Okay, this expository and straight to. There's really no transition right here between D and A major, but with the contiguous single note that could be in either key. Right, the A, we know that the first 8 measures is in D major, but right after that there's just a single A. This could be the 5th of the D major triad, right? But we wouldn't find out that this is in A major until this point. But I'll just go ahead and put transitional. And this is basically the reiteration of the first 16 measures, right? And again, this starting from here. Transitional. So the big A section is, I will just do D major, A major, D major, perfect authentic cadence, and A major, perfect authentic cadence. I could almost do that. Just put a repeat sign because they are pretty much the same except for the range. I'll just go ahead and do that. Okay, this is a expository, transitional, and developmental. Right here. Well, let's figure out the keys they are touched upon. G major, okay, A major, B minor, G A B. I'll just circle this important and established key areas. And then G A B minor, and then we have a 5 of D towards the end of this right here, the developmental section. And here we are back again. I'll just do expository, and later on is terminative. And we have a number of perfect authentic cadences. Okay, this is the small a. Okay, small a. And the small a, this is big B. Small a comes back again right here. Right, this time is in the home key in its entirety. And the first A ends with a different key than the home key. Right? And we have the 5 of D that relies on the resolution. And in the small a part, this is small b. Yeah, so this is rounded binary, right, with the return of A in the home key. Okay, this 8 plus 8, and I put a repeat sign instead of having everything written out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This part is 16 measures. This 8 plus 8. What about here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 8, and then plus 6. Yep, rounded binary. It looks like that in terms of the number of measures. Right, this is the last piece in this video to analyze, where we'll listen to it first and we will decide what form it is. Alright, let's figure out the tonality and cadences. F major. Right, this is a cadence. Right, it's supported by the rhythm as well. And this is a half cadence because this is a 5 chord. There's a hint of D minor, right? But we don't have cadence in D minor. I will just circle the important key. D minor is just tonicized. What is going on is we are going to C major, and we do have a perfect authentic cadence in C major. Okay, this is what is going on in part A. F major, we do have a half cadence. C major, a perfect authentic cadence. Right, pay attention to these two chords. This is a C major triad. So is that. It's the way that they are approached. Right, this is approached by 1 and then to 5. And this is approached by the 5 in the key of C major to the 1 in the key of C major. Does it make sense? So if I analyze it in Roman numerals, this is 1, 5. Right, this is how it's approached. However, here, this is approached by, if you're in the key of C, 5 to 1. Right, 1 to 5, 5 to 1. But they end up on the same triad. Pretty amazing, right? But still we perceive this as a perfect authentic cadence, not a half cadence in F major. And we perceive this as a half cadence in F major, not a perfect authentic cadence or authentic cadence in C major. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. And then we do have a repeat sign. Right, let's figure out the tonality. G minor is hinted at, right? We don't really have a cadence. If we do, this is a very weak cadence, right? This is a 1 chord, but this is a 1-6-4 for a cadence. It's not convincing, right? It's very weak because in part B, the motion is flowing. It shouldn't be stagnant tonally and keeps going. B flat is hinted at because we have the F to B flat, so do in B flat. And D minor is hinted at because we have C sharps, a lot of them, which is a leading tone in D minor. Also, when we have the 1 in D minor is actually a 1-6-4. It's highly unstable. Right. So this section is actually a phrase group right here. Because tonally it's very unstable. The harmonic progression too is really ambiguous, as in where we really are in terms of key. Right. So this is a phrase group. But I will circle the established key areas and the non-established key areas. I will just put a letter without a circle around it. B flat, D minor, and then right here we have a 5 of F, and of course we go to F, right, in the key of F. F major, okay, we do have a 5 of F, And then the return of the original theme, right? Okay, I'll just mark this as A. And this is B, small b. And the A returns in home key. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4 plus 4. This 8 measures. This is should be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We also have a half cadence here. One, two, three, four. So 4 measure. Okay. And then we have a perfect authentic cadence, both in F majors. F major. So this fulfills the principle of rounded binary, right? The return of A in home key. Alright. This is a period. So is that. This is a phrase group. And also this is expository. This is transitional. This is developmental. This, expository plus terminative. Yeah, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you next time.